stubborn, and Howie Roseman is very aware of it. Well, what do you know? People are talking. Jeremy Fowler, ESPN, it's finally coming out. The truth always does. I think largely because there are butts on the line going into the season, including the head coach, Nick Sirianni. According to Fowler and multiple sources, quote, Jalen has pushed back on changes that would diversify the scheme, including when it comes to him coming under center more. He's shown a reluctance to let it rip, particularly against zone coverage. He diverts from the game plan. He changes play calls to what many feel is an excessive degree. This is exactly what I was told. And when does the truth come out? When people think their jobs are in trouble. When people get replaced. When people are somewhere, get blamed for something, and they're out of town. They move to another job, then they'll talk. So, and this is a reporter that I trust. So this is what I was told, is that it's starting to feel very Russell Wilson in Seattle, where the quarterback who has critics is getting all the credit and the roster's stacked. And when they do infrequently lose, the roster gets the blame and the quarterback doesn't. If you go back 2 seasons, Saquon Barkley carried the team, the offensive line was stacked, and the defensive line was setting records. But it was Jalen Hurts getting the tush push, Super Bowl MVP, even though we now know over the last 2 years, off buys, the Eagles want to throw less. So Barkley didn't get enough love. The D-line and O-line were dominating, but who got $255 million? Who's getting the commercials? Who's getting the magazine covers? It feels very Russell Wilson in Seattle. And GM Howie Roseman, very reluctant, have you noticed, to trade A.J. Brown? I've been saying this for 2 years. I don't get it. Now I do. A.J. Brown, the general manager's like, yeah, that's not the issue. So the truth comes out, we're going into a season where if last year he was coming off a Super Bowl win, Nick Sirianni's job was not in jeopardy. But in Philadelphia, they move off quarterbacks and they move off head coaches that win trophies, that get to Super Bowls. So this is really, really interesting. And the Eagles, despite a completely stacked offensive roster, were below the Saints last year offensively. Yards per game, 24th. 3 and outs, next to last in the league. Punts, tied for 27. You can't do that with that O-line. A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith. I mean, what is it about this thing about Jalen Hurts where he's always being protected?
All right, so here's the deal. I had this whole bit planned where I was going to fully agree with Colin. Just say, yeah, he's absolutely right. All of that. And then I was going to reveal it as an April Fool's joke. But I started laughing halfway through because it's just that ridiculous. I'm sorry. In my head, I thought, I'm going to pull off an April Fool's thing. I couldn't even do it. I couldn't pull the trigger. Because now we're actually arguing that Jalen Hurts gets too much credit for why they won. That Saquon Barkley didn't get enough recognition. That the offensive line didn't get enough recognition. That the defensive line didn't get enough recognition. What are we even doing? Is that the April Fool's joke? That has to be the joke, right? That Jalen Hurts received too much praise, and now we're going to penalize him for winning Super Bowl MVP when he's the one who literally put up a record-breaking performance. Like, what? Saquon didn't. Who do you want to give the MVP to? Lane Johnson now? Like, what are you even talking about? Seriously. What? And the offensive line last year was not good. The offensive line last season was not good. That's clear. Greg Cosell, who Colin absolutely loves, kept saying that line was not good. And Saquon Barkley couldn't run the ball last season. Again, is that Jalen Hurts' fault? I love when we look at these numbers and just say, well, it's all Jalen Hurts. Okay, fine, it's all Jalen Hurts. So then why wasn't he? Had a problem in previous seasons? Now it's suddenly magically an issue. And you say, well, who got all the money? Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is the first quarterback ever to get paid. What? Again. The guy has multiple record-breaking Super Bowl performances, and we have the audacity to say that quarterbacks shouldn't get paid. He shouldn't get credit. Do you realize how insane this conversation has become? Seriously, do we understand how completely insane this discussion has gotten? You know what's strange? You know what's weird? In 2023. In 2023. Okay. When there was that supernatural funk, when everything fell apart, I don't remember hearing any of this. None of it. In fact, there was barely any criticism directed at Jalen Hurts' limitations or any of that. And that's odd, except for this. A.J. Brown was top 5 in receiving yards, 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. So it was fine because he had a receiver with over 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. Therefore, he was a great passer. Therefore, everything was totally okay. That's how you know it was totally acceptable. And Devonta Smith had over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. So it was completely fine. He was coachable. Everything was fine. It was okay. And Jalen Hurts threw for 3,800 yards. Could have easily been 4,000 since people are obsessed with that number, but remember he didn't play the final game. He left the final game. 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Now, it's funny because everybody was like, "Oh my God, the interceptions." That I do remember. Oh, the turnovers, the interceptions. And it's just weird because Patrick Mahomes had 14 interceptions. Josh Allen had 18 interceptions. It's kind of strange, right? It's a little odd. And then during the regular season of 2024, he throws for 18 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Completely protects the football. Has a 68.7% completion percentage. Literally transforms into one of the most efficient passing games, not high volume, but most efficient. Top 8 in completion percentage. Nick's apparent favorite quarterback stat, yards per attempt, top 4. Top touchdown to interception ratio. And top 5 in passer rating. But it's not good because the volume of it isn't enough. The rate isn't high enough. But yet in the playoffs, he has 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 726 yards, a 71.4% completion percentage, and a passer rating of 108.6. This is across the entire postseason. Literally better than Patrick Mahomes, who had 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. We know a couple of those touchdowns were quite manufactured, right? We know the 679 yards, a bunch of those yards were quite manufactured, right? We know that passer rating of 101.4 is quite manufactured, right? Well, in 2023, Patrick Mahomes gets all the credit. He had 1 more touchdown, lower yards per attempt, lower completion percentage, and a lower passer rating for that postseason run. Not to mention, I didn't even look at the rushing yards. Len Hurts has more. Don't need to look it up. And yet that's considered an unbelievable postseason. I mean, you know what's so remarkable about this right here? Total yards per game, passing yards per game, 3 and outs, and punts, right? You see that it's all bad. And their running game was awful. And their offensive line was not good. And yet Jalen Hurts was top 9. He had a touchdown to interception ratio of 25 and 6. Again, Sam Darnold had 25 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Remember when Jalen Hurts had something similar in 2023, and it was just like, whatever. But Sam Darnold does this with Jackson Smith-Njigba, the highest paid wide receiver of all time, and Clint Kubiak, the genius offensive coordinator. Cooper Kupp. A running back so good that the Kansas City Chiefs paid $14 million for him. It's weird. Sam Darnold seemed to have a very similar season. Are people continuing to talk about all his limitations and all the issues with him? 25 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. That's kind of odd, right? Again, Josh Allen, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Jalen Hurts, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Caleb Williams was super genius, Colin saying that Ben Johnson is arguably the greatest hire in over a decade. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, a completion percentage of 58.1. Jalen Hurts, 64.8. Yards per attempt, 6.9 to 7.1. Passer rating, 98.5 to 90.1. Don't tell me that roster wasn't elite. You want. To talk about an elite offensive line? You want to talk about an elite running game? You want to talk about elite play calling? You want to talk about elite pass catchers, tight ends and wide receivers galore? What? Like, that's weird, right? It's Kevin Patullo? Ben Johnson? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's strange, isn't it? And Caleb Williams played 17 games. Jalen Hurts played 16 games. I mean, you know what's so crazy? Caleb Williams threw the ball over 100 more times, well over 100 more times, than Jalen Hurts. Again, played a whole extra game, and yet only had 36 more completions. I mean, yes, I believe Jalen Hurts could have more yards, potentially more touchdowns, more things happening if he just didn't care as much and just let it rip. Also, because again, it's funny, now they're talking about the hesitation in him letting it rip. And it's just like, why did no one ever say that was a problem when A.J. Brown was happy? Like in 2023, he let it rip. Okay. And then he had similar touchdown to interception ratios as Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, and Sam Darnold, like I said. And yet he got criticized while those quarterbacks didn't. He actually goes on to win a Super Bowl, gets minimal credit, but because he's a quarterback, he's in commercials and magazines and gets paid more money. You say he gets too much credit? Like what? Really? Should Caleb Williams get more blame for losing against the Los Angeles Rams? Should Jared Goff get more blame for losing in the NFC Championship game and against the Washington Commanders? Should he get more blame for losing? Should Matthew Stafford get more blame for losing against the Philadelphia Eagles? I mean, he fumbled that ball, man. That wasn't good. Had a couple of inaccurate passes, that wasn't good. What about losing against the Seattle Seahawks last year? Should he get more blame? What about Drake May's amazing Super Bowl performance? Should he get more blame for losing? Should Justin Herbert get more blame for losing against the New England Patriots? Should Josh Allen get more blame for losing through a couple of interceptions, some fumbles? Should he get more blame for losing? I'm just looking at the names right now. Should these quarterbacks get more blame for losing? Should Brock Purdy get more blame for losing for missing some throws in that Super Bowl in 2023? I mean, listen, if he had a historic performance like Jalen Hurts, the 49ers probably win. You realize that, right? You realize that if Brock Purdy played like Jalen Hurts in that Super Bowl, they win the Super Bowl. Do you realize if Jimmy Garoppolo played like Jalen Hurts, they win that Super Bowl? Do you realize that with Drake May, think about how close that game was? I mean, Seattle was just kicking field goals. They couldn't do anything offensively. Do you realize if Jalen Hurts played that way? At the bare minimum, we've got ourselves a game. And I sneeze on the truth. You all know I always sneeze on the truth. You realize that if Caleb Williams played like Jalen Hurts, they beat the Los Angeles Rams. You realize that, right? These are just facts. These are literal facts. These are just facts. You're not going to tell me the 49ers weren't a great team. You're not going to, oh, well, they had A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What about Christian McCaffrey? What about George Kittle? What about Deebo Samuel? What about Kyle Shanahan? Like, again, you want to play this game? Let's play this game. What about the Jared Goff game? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ben Johnson, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, like, an elite offensive line. You want to play that game again, man? Let's play that game. Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Devonta Smith? Sean McVay. And so now we're upset that Jalen Hurts gets any of the credit. Any of the credit. He's not allowed to get any of the recognition. I mean, this is hilarious. Now we're shaping up like Jalen Hurts is LeBron James, where he gets all the credit when they win, and if they lose, he gets none of the blame. Like, that's the most April Fool's joke I've ever heard, because that is insane. Going into the Super Bowl, all anyone said was, if the Eagles lose, it will be because of Jalen Hurts. You had people saying just run the ball 50 times. Saquon Barkley should get the ball handed to him 50 times. I don't even know what to say. Seriously, I mean, it's such insanity. It really is. It's so absurd. And this is the quarterback who willingly will have games where he throws for under 200 yards and wins, and says, we did what we needed to do to win. And doesn't care at all. And you want to compare it to the Russell Wilson thing, where Russell Wilson was constantly like, let me cook. Let me do all this stuff. And Jalen Hurts is like, no, it's okay. I'm cool. And when they win the Super Bowl, he goes running to Saquon Barkley and says, you're the reason. You're the difference maker. That's the guy who has bad body language and is a bad leader and not liked. Like, that's how I know some of this is such nonsense. Because again, I'm sure there's some truth to this article, there's always truth. There's always some truth. You always just have to figure out where all of the truth is. There's always truth. I'm not the type of person who sees something like this and says, this is all nonsense. I don't do that. I don't do that at all, because there's always going to be some truth. You can't just completely make stuff up. You'll never survive in an industry where you need respect. You need I can't think of the word right now. But your integrity, right? Your reputation. So you can't just completely fabricate things. So there's going to be some truth. But when you call out Jalen Hurts' body language now, the guy who is so even-keeled no matter what, whether they're winning by 20 or losing by 20, his back is straight and he's focused and he's serious. And you say hi. Body language is a problem? Like, what's his body, where is his body language an issue right now? Where is that the problem? I remember them calling out Caleb Williams for his body language, and that's because he was lying on the bench like this and going all like that. And when he was messing up a drill, he's carrying on and swinging his arms like he's 12 years old. Like my 9-year-old nephew. I want to go to bed. And it's like, alright, buddy. Well, you do. People love Baker Mayfield's body language because he headbutts people without a helmet. Like, I love that. Players love him, want to play for him. Mike Evans just said, peace. I'm out of here. I mean, I don't understand. What makes Josh Allen's body language better? Or Patrick Mahomes' body language better? I recall Rashee Rice screaming at Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. They were fighting. Patrick Mahomes had to chase after him. Is it this? Is this the body language that everyone loves? Drake May's just special body language, which I don't understand. You'll have to tell me. Dak Prescott's body language, where he's spitting at players' feet. Literally calls them problems before the game even starts. Just competitive. Oh, he baited Jalen Carter. He knew what he was doing. That's how smart Dak Prescott is. Have you seen Dak Prescott in some playoff games? Have you seen Dak Prescott's playoff record? Yikes. Yikes. I really liked Jared Goff's body language as he was looking at the tablet, watching himself throw an interception. They're like, oh, buddy, you threw it to the wrong guy. We have a different colored jersey than that team. And he's like, oh, okay. But when he said okay, his back was straight. He was like this and went, yeah, I threw it to the wrong person. MHM. You know, that's perfect. That's great body language. I love it. I love that body language. You know what's also funny? They can't figure out who they don't like, Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts. They can't figure it out. Because they're like, oh, Jalen Hurts has problems, but Nick Sirianni, I thought Nick Sirianni was awful. I thought Nick Sirianni was just a bad coach. So again, I don't know which it is. Like, which is it? I'd really like to know which is it. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts in this conversation? I'll be making another video, I guess, with First Things First, because First Things First has been off, and I'm sure they're going to jump right into this, and it's going to be interesting. I'll try to figure out how to have the conversation without just repeating all of this right now. I was going to skip this video because I thought, oh, you know, I posted a Jalen Hurts video earlier, and then this came out, and I was like, okay, but everyone's going to want to see this. But then I know it's going to be on First Things First. So we'll see how the conversation goes for First Things First. But yeah. We'll see. We'll take it. We'll take it little by little. But let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.